So it says, children, obey your parents. Oh, this sounds like some robot type stuff. In the Lord, for this is right. Honor thy father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with thee, and thou mayest live long on the earth. And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. What do you think is the first part of these four scriptures that I've ever focused on in my life?
The obeying part.
It's not. When I was younger than you, I brought up verse 4 to my father. It says, and ye fathers, provoke not your children. And so I came to my dad, and my Bible at the time I remember, it had a stronger word. It said, and ye fathers, molest not your children. And I remember quoting that to one of our cousins, and I was like, oh, I hope they don't think that I'm saying my dad is molesting me, because he's not. But this idea of provoking, fathers, provoke not your children to wrath. Um, that's my first remembrance of this scripture as a child, being quoting this to my dad, like, hey man, and why do you think I was quoting that to my dad?
Because you felt like he was provoking you.
He was provoking me, and I know I've provoked you in the past. Why do you think I'm provoking you just because I'm trying to push your buttons? Why do you think I end up provoking you, agitating you with some of the things that I say and do in the past? Why do you think that happens?
Just so I can remember them, so it become muscle memory.
Well, I'm not even. I think most of the time when I provoke you, I'm not doing it on purpose. Do you? I hope you know that. I'm not like trying to annoy you on purpose. Because I've told you in the past, I'm like, look, man, I know you think this is like I'm really looking like how I keep the house, and I tell you like, look, I'm how I'm built. I notice things that are out of order, and I speak to them. I speak on them. I'm like, hey, what's up with that? And I'm like, I don't come into a room looking for disorder. It jumps out at me. And I think you're even getting some of that now, right? That comes from my dad to me, from me to you, right?
Yeah.
And so I am never in a place where I'm trying to provoke you intentionally, but I end up provoking you unintentionally anyway. So that's what I wanted you to kind of speak on. Like, what's happening when I'm doing and saying stuff, and I hope you know that I'm not trying to provoke you on purpose. I am trying to rear you up in a certain way and get some things in you so that you won't forget them in your when you get older. But I'm not trying to provoke you to anger though or to wrath, as the scriptures say. So why do you think that happens anyways?
Just like miscommunication and not knowing the true intentions behind something, behind a request, or even like if you're kind of short one day, maybe you had a bad day that day and I just didn't know that, and so now it's like, oh, he's always like this, and it's just, and then that's where the disagreements come.
Yeah, I know you've said in times past that I'm very passionate about things, and y'all have told me that I don't think I'm yelling, but y'all like, but you're raising your voice though, and that's the thing that I see that provokes you more so than anything else. It's the tone and the volume that I use sometimes, right? And I think you recently even tell me like, yeah, you're not yelling. I was like, was I yelling just now? You're like, no, you're not yelling, but you have definitely, you know, raised up your voice though. And so I hear that, and it kind of breaks my heart because I'm like, man, that's not what I'm intending to do. And I hate it when the miscommunication, or rather the misinterpretation of what I'm doing and how you perceive things, and vice versa. Because, like I said, this is called Tears of the Sun. I remember being in your shoes. My dad was the one that kind of raised his voice. I think more than I raised my voice to you all. But I would tell him sometimes, like, man, it's not what you say, it's how you're saying. I remember saying that to him as well. And it's crazy how quickly me as a father now, I forget that, and then wonder why like you looking at me or don't have anything to say because I've gotten into this place where I've elevated my voice. I'll say that. Um, but of course, yeah, you would think that my number one thing was children obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. What do you think this part where it says in the Lord is though? Like, what does that mean? Obey your parents in the Lord.
When they're trying to apply God's will to your life.
Obey them in that.
Yeah.
That's good. Um, I say it all the time to you that everything, though I may reap the benefit of you following my instruction. I don't want you to be a robot. I do want you to love me enough to say, you know what, this is what my dad would want while you're getting in my house, right? And that's how God is. He was like, he don't want us to fear him, like to be scared of him, but he's like, I do want you to like love me enough to know my right way of doing things and to forego your way for my way. And some people that's one word for that is submit. Some people have a problem with that word, right? But I've told you like there are principles that I'm trying to teach you now while I have time with you, so that when you are by yourself and you have to you're fostering this relationship with God the Father in heaven, that it's harder, I think. And I don't know if I've ever asked you this. I always tell you, but to me, it's harder to follow somebody instructions that you can't see than it is to follow somebody that you can see. What do you think about that? Do you think that's true?
No, I definitely think that's true. This is kind of a concept that we talk about a lot in high school as we're preparing for college. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, with how sometimes elementary school teachers and middle school teachers will always be down your back, like make sure you get this assignment done, make sure you do this, make sure you do that, and that's kind of the on earth, your father's right there to help guide you. But when we talk about high school and college, it's almost kind of like how God is, where it's like they'll give you an assignment and then it's hands off from there, and they'll remind you every once in a while. And sometimes they say in college they won't remind you at all. It's just like you got to do it.
Yeah. And so it's almost like this concept of when the cat's away, the mice will play. I talked to some kids recently about this, and I say, it's almost like when you have a substitute. When you see a substitute, all the rules that the teacher, your normal regular teacher, has. But there's something about that teacher not being there that makes you be like, yeah, it's time to, I'm a while out though, right? And so while you can see me yet face to face, while I can touch you and you can touch me, I have to do my best to get you to obey in the Lord what I'm saying, because I'm the authority that God has placed in your life and your mother. While if you can get into the habit of what is it that he's asking me to do, and let me execute that. If you can do that with me, if I can train you for the 17, 18 years that you'll be here to get into that muscle memory of doing that, but doing it out of also turning the corner on doing it out of love, not just out of rote obedience, but doing it out of love for me. If you can understand that in the time that I had with you, then when you are away at college and you begin to get on your own, it'll be easier for you to do it because it'll be that muscle memory that's on the inside of you, right? And like I said, I reap the benefit of that because I'm like, yeah, you're doing what I asked you to do, but I'm like, I need you to see past that and not just think that I'm trying to manipulate you or I'm trying to get what I want out of you. I know it's hard to see that, but one of the things that I try to do a better job of is being very intentional about why I'm doing things. So that because I know you have these thoughts in your mind like he just tripping, he just power tripping, right? But it's rarely that. Sometimes it will be like, no, do what I said, like right here, right now. You know what I'm saying? There was that time when we first moved down here where that was more of a thing, but I've been trying to be better at explaining why what I'm trying to establish with us is more about what you're establishing with your Father in heaven than it is with me. Because he's more your father than I will ever be. You're more his son than you will ever be my son. I'm just a steward over you for right now. Feel me?
Yeah.
So I think this is a good place to kind of stop because we've got a chance to kind of lay down. We've gotten through 2 of the scriptures, and let's pick up here next week and continue through these scriptures and continue to have this dialogue. I think this was dope. I appreciate you, chopping it up with me. Found out some things that I didn't know about. And yeah, Tears of the Sun. Let's do it again next time.
Of course.
Yeah. All right, man.